You are listening to the Persistence Mastery Podcast to give your communication skills the clarity edge with your host, Paul Leon.
Hey guys, welcome back. So today in this episode, we're going to get into the heart of a common denominator I've been seeing with a lot of consultations lately. And I've had the pleasure in my 5+ years of training, speaking, presenting to meet a lot of professionals who hold titles such as vice presidents, managers, etc. Some higher level titles. And it's interesting because as I coach, consult, and even just conversate as a human being with these people, you start to notice some common denominators in those conversations that we think is common sense. And one of my catchphrases, it isn't something I created, I've heard it before, is that common sense is not common. So with that, I want to get into the heart of today's brief episode, which is on avoid this with your manager. And this pertains to you if you have a new manager or you have an existing manager that maybe you have challenges with and maybe that you're struggling to get along with. So this may be a benefit to you. With that, let's jump right in. The main thing that I want to coach today in this episode is don't have one-on-ones with your manager where you just bring problems. And here's what I mean by that. Most managers in high-performing companies, project development, etc., are not big fans of that you're always bringing them problems. See, managers don't really care about problems. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, and I'm not speaking for all managers who may have less or more empathy. That can vary for numerous amount of personalities / behavior reasons. Or they don't believe in personalities, they believe in behaviors, but that's an episode for another time. What managers care about is they understand there's problems already. They're not unaware of that. They're more interested in their solutions. So if you're going to bring them a problem, you're going to want to have a solution. Now, how do we get there? Well, in any high-performing company, here's the structure that you want to have when having a solution-driven conversation with your manager when you're going to bring problems. Number one, lead with data. That's the first step. What data have you uncovered on your own before you even present this problem to your manager? So I'll give you an example. A good friend of mine told me he was struggling with his manager. He works at a different company, and he was saying he was struggling to connect with his manager. We were just conversating. I said, well, what are you doing in that conversation? Tell me the context, the meat. And he said, well, I really just kind of go in there and kind of tell him about all the changes and what those problems are. And I said, well, that doesn't really do anything for him. And I was playing devil's advocate, obviously. I said, what your manager really cares about is, number one, what homework have you done? And when I say homework, leading with data. Hey, this data report shows X. I saw this report that shows X. That's the first thing you want to do in every conversation with your manager. Lead with data. Then you can present a problem, but if you don't lead with the data first and you lead with the problem, managers typically are going to become extremely irritated because what you're telling them is you haven't done your homework and you haven't done your part to really bring that problem to make logical sense. So lead with data first on what you have found on your own. Then present the problem associated with it. And this is the big miss that a lot of people have, is then provide the solution that you would do. And let me say that again. After you lead with data, the problem, then present the solution you would do from your perspective. Now, what will happen is when you do this, it invites your manager to layer in or add frosting on the cake to then level up your solution. And see, most managers, even if they're tough, aggressive, maybe they come across a certain way that doesn't rub you the right way, there's still a structure that's typically plug and play for most management systems in corporate America. And what a lot of professionals do when they get a new manager, especially, they come to them with their problems, or they say, you know what, this happened and this is why we're failing. And it's just a blanket statement, but there's nothing you can do with that. So again, my advice to you in this very brief episode, if you are doing this with your manager, you're coming to him just with problems, or her, just with problems, just with like, hey, this stinks, it's because the company did X, this is why Y is happening, and they're just vague statements without anything behind them, you're going to irritate them. In fact, you're probably going to start to lose rapport at a rapid rate, which is what you want to avoid 100%. So again, that's it for today's episode. I want to leave you with the call to action. In your next one-on-ones and going forward, lead with data, present your problems associated that you found with that data, and then your solutions to what you would do to correct or improve that type of situation, and allow your manager to layer in their value so you can strengthen your rapport and be better co-workers and more productive in the workplace.
Thank you for listening to the Persistence Mastery Podcast. Subscribe to where you listen to podcasts. And if you want to hire Paul to train or speak for your team, visit persistencemastery.com and fill out the request training form.